and welcome to a new episode of Constructive Criticism. I'm your host, Spencer, wearing my Pro Tour Origins shirt, joined by my co-hosts, a man who has never qualified for a Pro Tour, Mason Clark.
Feels good, very close, doesn't count. Only horseshoes and hand grenades. How you doing?
And a man who is our future Gold Pro, possibly Platinum Pro, Michael Hinderrocker.
I mean, I think everyone is like possibly a future Platinum Pro, right? I mean, that's like...
That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
Right? I mean, anyone can be anything they haven't done yet. If there's one thing I know.
If you want to be anything that you want and you want to play any deck that you want, you can check out Oasis Games at mtgoasis.com. Get 15% off your first order by using code CCMTG at checkout. You can get 4% off of every order by using the code Would That Be Good, no spaces. And you can check out our other sponsor. I do know that Nigachu is now aware of Mason's hate for him. Just rampant hate.
It's really hard to slander me when I'm on the show. It's very hard.
Slandering
No,
You're the one that said you literally want to grind him into the dust. Nobody else said that. You do you, man. But Nigachu's now aware of you, and he is also sponsored by Mason.
The Mana Base.
The Mana Base. You can check them out. They sponsor all kinds of content creators. You can check out their sponsor at Fusion Gaming. Let them know that we sent you at Constructive Criticism. You can also check out the rest of the network. You have I will actually be on the Common Knowledge podcast this week, as one of the co-hosts is going to be out, so I'll be filling in. That's the show that I produce. Mason's apparently wearing a sweater that Michael and I can't see. Unlucky for us.
It's a great sweater. It was a gift.
I just don't know why you can't share your camera with us while you're streaming, but it's not up to me.
I can explain it.
I mean, it's probably, yeah. I wouldn't
You can check
explain
out all
it.
of the amazing content that the Mana Base sponsors. You can check out the rest of our network, the Common Knowledge, Proven Combatants, Jake Tilk, Alex Kirby, as well as the podcast with Danny Cathro, who's missing, according to the Utah MTG Facebook group.
Rest in peace, Danny.
Rest in peace, man. I think he'll be back this week with me, but we'll see. See what happens. We'll see what happens. You can
this
support
Saturday.
this directly by going to patreon.com/ccmtg. The Patreon is updated, quote unquote, but I will continue to update it as I get feedback from patrons. We are changing this. We want to make sure that we're getting the things out that people actually want. Patreon.com/ccmtg. Become a patron of the show. If everybody listening to the show donated $1 or more per month, it would change our lives. It would make it so that we could do this full time, and it would mean the world to us. So, there is not an updated Patreon question. Mason, where's the Patreon question?
I can't update the file, so it's just in the comments.
Mason said this was the Patreon question. Should we just work it out into the show?
That's obviously not supposed to be the question.
Correctly set a goal as we move into. What is the actual Patreon question, Mason?
How do you correctly set a goal as we move into 2018?
So, this is a really interesting question because I think when we started 2017, the podcast was myself, Michael, and actually Casey, I think, was the beginning of this year. And I think that one thing that we knew going into the year is that we didn't like specific types of goals. So, Michael, what are the types of goals you like and you don't like going into 2018 for Magic?
Okay, just kind of fundamentally, I don't really love results-based goals. Just because you can achieve them or not achieve them for reasons that are kind of out of your control. Like saying, I want to win this percentage of matches, or I want to win.
I think that's
a bad goal.
Well, we're going to talk about that.
Right, but or I want to win. I don't know. I think even saying something like I want to qualify for a pro tour, right? Like sometimes goals that are about you specifically winning singular matches of Magic are just gonna be really rough.
Yeah, I think that there was a lot that I thought going into 2017, and a lot that I didn't realize going into 2017. And I think for 2018, my goal would be to do certain types of things. So I don't know that my goal will be win percentage based again. Also, if it was, it would not be the insane win percentage that I placed upon myself, because I thought that I would have more time to play local tournaments. So like I set my goal super high and was like, well, you skipped like 30 weeks of local tournaments, so you didn't. There's no possible way you would achieve that goal.
Right, but that also kind of makes it like a silly goal in the first place, right? If your way to achieve it is to play a bunch of soft competition, then it's like, so why am I setting this goal?
No, exactly. It's like, why did you set this goal expecting to do X?
I mean, you could set it to be 100%, just only play Maxwell.
Yeah, but what about if you do lose?
Then you like really don't make it 0% of the time.
Yeah, I mean, he'll never play a land. It's really hard. He can't hold the cards.
Here's the thing.
He's gonna go to time a lot.
He'd eat a lot of lands, but I believe that there would be one match during the year, if I said it this year, where he would tap things and throw things on the table, and I would die.
Maybe. Okay, but sure.
Too, so maybe that's not true. But I do think that, to Michael's point, there are things that are correct and incorrect. So, I feel I don't want to jump into the reason that my goal was wrong yet, but I will say that if I was going to set goals for 2018, I think that there are things that are realistic, and there are things that you want to achieve, and you have to find something that is tangible, but not unreasonable.
So I like setting goals that help you achieve the things you'd like to achieve, and recognizing that those are different.
To be fair, that's why I set the goal I set.
Sure.
I believe that if I achieved my goal, I would achieve the goals that I actually wanted to achieve. But I think that there's a correct way and a wrong way to go about this, and this whole episode will actually be about this. So please, Andrew, stay tuned, listen to the whole episode, and I think we'll answer your Patreon question a lot more in depth. So, speaking of that, let's go to hashtag always improving. Hashtag always improving is the point of this podcast. We believe if you are not getting better, you're getting worse. Before we get there, though, I want to mention that Card of the Week is returning. One of the things that we have always wanted to do on this podcast is highlight a card that's doing well in Magic for a few reasons. One, speculation reasons. If you want to speculate on a card, buy it because the card is doing well, go for it. Or if a deck is doing well, go for it. But the other thing is we want to give back to the listeners. One of the most common things that we're compared to is limited resources. And I just kind of want to, for the listeners, make a clear understanding of what's happening. Limited Resources makes over $100,000 a year just from their podcast. We make $300 a month from our podcast. So, and also, Limited Resources, the stuff they give away is paid for by Channel Fireball and packs given to them by listeners. I still want to give out Card of the Week. So, in the next year, we will give out Card of the Week. The conclusion that I came to that I kind of hinted at last week is that what people actually want is value. So, if you are a patron of $3 or more per month, you will be entered into the Card of the Week drawing, and we will actually give out the entire month of Card of the Weeks to one person. So, at the end of the month, everything that's one Card of the Week, we'll give out either 4 of them or 1 of them or 2 of them, however we think that they'll fit, and just ship them out to one person who won them at the end of the month. That will be returning. You have to be a patron of $3 more per month. That is how this show is going to improve in 2018. It does impact our bottom line because we don't make $100,000 per month on a podcast, and a lot of it, when I pay for Michael's GPs and stuff like that, does come out of my pocket. But I do love our listeners, and I want to give back to the people who are important to me. So, $3 or more per month. Anything you see fit is appreciated, but that is what you have to enter to win that for now. Let's go into hashtag always improving, because not only does the podcast improve, we improve ourselves. And this week we're going to talk about 2 things: how we improve this week, because it's a weekly show, and what we did to improve during 2017. So I will go first, and to start this off, I did a lot of testing with teammates. We had an entire Skype day, like not even Skype. It was a Google Hangout where everybody was on Google. I think we had 4 matches going at once with our CCMTG worldwide testing team. And I learned a lot. Like there were playing around days moments for Gavin. There was weird, that was actually not. Was it Gavin? Mason, who was it?
I was watching Star Wars while this was going on.
So you were super helpful. Thank you.
I'm glad you said who was it? I wasn't there.
You were there.
I was there on Sunday. We didn't play around. Days never came up. We sequenced burn spells wrong.
Who was playing burn on Sunday?
That was Gavin.
Oh, did we do it 2 days in a row?
Yes.
Well, my wife's out of town. My days are obviously. I was like, no, because Gavin was playing Modern on Saturday. Okay, so we actually did this 2 days in a row. Playing our days for Gavin with Burn, playing Mono Blue with Gavin on Saturday, as well as multiple people just playing different events and just really getting lots of matches and lots of types of games. If there's one thing that I've learned in testing teams, it's that the thing is I want to expand my range, and like having multiple people playing different types of events has been really helpful for me. So that's what I did this week to improve. And then for 2017, if there's something that I did to improve, it was really taking the pressure off of BBQs. So I tried to qualify for 3 of the 4 RPTQs this year. I qualified for all 3. Kind of taking a break during Modern season. It was kind of the start of football season, and it's not a format that I love. But it was really good to like win some early, and also, I mean, I guess I haven't even played the one at the end of the season, but just kind of like I knew that I could win one every season if I tried, and every season that I tried, I won one. And it honestly takes a lot of pressure off of an individual PTQ or PPTQ, sorry, when you feel that way. And I don't know if you feel this way, because it feels like since you beat me in the finals of that standard one, where like you played like an insane amount that season, that it's all gone easy for you. Is that something that you felt after that?
Yeah, I played a lot that season. I think mostly I played a lot because I probably was switching decks too much. I think I probably could have won with about 4 different decks, but didn't play any single one of them enough, and maybe wasn't quite good enough to get away with it. But I think I got one of the last ones of that season, and yeah, I don't know.
The last one.
Sometimes just getting one, and then I got, I think, either the first or the second one of the next season.
You did. You had a couple of runoffs where you won.
And then I don't think I've had to play one since then. Or no, I played one,
you
won. I played exactly one and won it, and then qualified for the PT again via that RPTQ. So
I think so. I think that you ran RPTQs after one after that, right?
I don't know.
You're silver, so you automatically get invited too, right? Like, isn't that how it works?
Well,
this was before he was silver.
Oh, okay, my bad.
That's only since like September.
So the one that Michael beat me in the finals of was he was playing really early.
It was Bant Company.
He was playing Bant Company. I was playing the ramp deck.
Against the ramp deck.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a while ago.
It's like almost a year and a half. But what I was getting at is you played. I have never been the person that plays like a bunch of PPTQs, but what I felt this season was relief in not even the season, this year, and knowing that like when I dedicate myself, I do well. And it felt like after you dedicated yourself to that season, I think you won 2 PPTQs either first or second week, the next 2, and then you RPTQ'd your way to the rest.
Something like that. I don't remember it, but yeah, something along those lines.
You had that same kind of feeling where it was like,
well, you just start playing and like you just hit a point where you're beating the people who aren't very good without really, like, basically just every time. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, you're just not losing to people who are like substantially worse at Magic than you are. And when you're at that level at like a PPTQ, you're mostly going to top 8, the vast majority, if not all of them. And in the top 8, you have probably a better than 1/8 shot, right?
Yeah, we talked about the modern season that I didn't really try for, and I top 8'd every one I played in but one, and the last one was actually a sealed event that I lost to the winner, and won a sealed one the next weekend. That was the next season, so it was kind of like that in between part of like. And the thing is like you're like, Spencer, how is this an improving moment? You usually top 8 PPTQs, but the difference is like I usually feel pressure to top 8 the PPTQ, and I didn't feel that this year. Like I actually had to text somebody. I was like, and we'll get into this for my always improving moment, or not my always improving, but a different moment in the show. But like, I actually forgot that I played 4-color energy at an RPTQ online. I literally forgot about the RPTQ. Like, it was like, I know I qualified for 3 of 4, but like I don't remember all my RPTQs.
Yeah, it's like when it starts getting easier for you, right? Like,
no,
it wasn't like some big slog to earn your qualification for that event.
It was exactly right. Like, the RPTQ and the PPTQ were like just events that happened,
right?
Rather than like big events in my life,
right?
And it is how I want to feel about Magic, right? Where like show up to event, I try to win as many matches as possible, and that's the end of the story.
Yeah, I think with a lot of things, just a lot of things in general, sometimes just kind of like the lid comes off the basket a little bit once you've done it once. Like, it's always harder to do something for the first time than it is to do it again, right? Yeah. Like, if you've done it once, you like, if you've won a PPTQ before, you literally know you're capable of it because you already did it once. And a lot of the time, if you're continuing to get better, you were good enough to win before, and you're probably better now than you were then. So,
Michael, what are your #was improvement moments for this week and for 2017 in general?
Oh man, for this week I played so many Modern Leagues. I've been trying to help Matt choose a deck for Santa Clara, and then, I mean, obviously that format is like most relevant to me going forward after that event. I played so many. I played so much Modern this week.
Did you see the Grixis list that I just posted?
No. Where is it?
It's in the Constructed Critics group, so if you're a patron of $5 or more, you have access to it.
Oh, well,
but I think
that doesn't describe me. So
you have access to it anyway. But I think the deck would fit Matt really well. Is there anything that you learned from these leagues before we move on to 2017?
Okay, so I like Grixis Shadow. I've been playing it with only. This list doesn't have any Thoughtseize, which seems questionable.
Oh, does it not?
Yeah, but I've been playing it with no Inquisitions.
Well, then don't play my list, guys.
Yeah, but I've been playing it with no Inquisitions, actually, and liking it a lot better.
Yeah, I need to cut at least 4 cards then.
But I like that deck pretty well. There's a number of things I like pretty well. But I think, again, just sometimes even if you don't like something, just having a better understanding of sort of how you win games in different matchups gives you. It's helpful when you're playing against it, but it's also helpful to maybe just give you. I think I said this last week, but like just give you a broader view of where the metagame is and why it is where it is and what the matchups like. So sometimes even spending a bunch of time playing a deck you don't think you'll end up playing in your next tournament can be helpful.
Yeah.
As far as 2017 as a whole goes, I was happy to like have at least one pretty good Pro Tour result, because again, just like everything is just sort of a good measuring stick of like, hey, we're making progress and moving in the right direction. I would like, I'd love to have a better PT finish than that and some better GP finishes, but like, as a whole, I think the year went reasonably well, Magic event wise, and I don't remember exactly what my goals were, but
it was
I had to have made most of them at least.
Yeah. Mason, what about you? What did you do this week, and what did you do for the year?
So my week and the year kind of overlap because I'm I've been taking a little bit of a break because I qualified for my RPTQ pretty early, nor in any events, and so now I'm starting to prepare for the GP and limited for teaming with Danny. And so what I've been doing is I'm trying to focus on playing tight in games. I think one of my biggest weaknesses and one of the things I wanted to work on the most for 2017 was in game making sure that all my decisions made sense and I had a reason for them, and that I was staying an active player in my game, if that makes sense, right? Like not making plays just because they feel right, but being an active participant in it and having a game plan and a goal.
I love that. As the person who I feel like I invented the active participant feature of Magic. I love it every time somebody says that. It's like, it's so true. Like, it's so easy to not be that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like we talked about at the beginning with the Patreon question, like what was like a way to prepare for 2017, and Michael talked about like goals not being win percentage, but being things that you like that aren't maybe it was so results oriented. And my overarching goal in card games in general has always been to just be happy with how I played. And if I talk to like a friend, they ask me after the match, I can tell them that like I played the best I could, regardless if I win or I lose, because it really doesn't matter if you win or you lose. All that matters is that you played the best you could. So.
Yeah. I wish that I could think this way in all card games, because most of the Hearthstone I play is like in the bathtub. So
that
on my
iPhone. What if you drop your iPhone?
Fine. Dude, the iPhone 7 is waterproof. You can literally just play it underwater.
Whoa.
I
know
what
I'm doing
sounds way
this
more
episode.
fun.
Yeah. Q-Block mirrors get way more exciting now.
And now we learned why Mason won't share his screen.
Yeah.
But I think that we'll get into this later, but I do think that there are more reasonable goals than the one that I had that Michael kind of hinted at for my 2017 goal. But
yeah,
let's go on to our deck doctor, which Mason thought was me.
Yeah, it just kind of looked like a deck you would play.
I literally haven't played a snake deck in weeks.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Before that, and Michael, back me up here, just about every other day when you were practicing for the GP and everything, it was like snake deck, snake deck, snake deck.
That was 2 months ago.
Was it? I don't even know I don't even know what day it is. I don't even know what year it is sometimes.
Michael,
all I know
as our designated deck doctor and deck list, reader, why don't you go ahead and read this deck for us?
Yeah. Okay, so 4 Aether Hub, 4 Blooming Marsh, 4 Botanical Sanctum, 2 Evolving Wilds, 1 Fetid Pools, 3 Forest, 1 Island, 2 Swamps, 2 Walking Ballista, 4 Whining Constrictor, 4 Longtusk Cub, 4 Glintsleeve Siphoner, 1 Ronus the Indomitable, 2 Rishkar Pima Renegade, 2 Hostage Taker, 2 Bristling Hydra, 2 Verdurous Gearhulk, and then for spells we have 2 Spell Pierce, 4 Attune with Aether, 4 Blossoming Defense, 4 Fatal Push, and 2 Cartouche of Knowledge. On the sideboard we have an additional Fetid Pools, 2 Duress, 2 Appetite for the Unnatural, 4 Deathcord Scavenger, a Bristling Hydra, 2 Vraska's Contempt, 2 copies of the Scarab God, and 1 Vraska Relic Seeker.
So I'll start as the resident snake expert with the what we love. So first of all, I love snake decks, but I do have a little bit of a problem. So one of the things that the person that posted this set is like, I want to be basically the Abzan aggro of this format. So like if you look back in the day, we had Abzan control and Abzan aggro. He wants to be on that side of the spectrum. And one of the things that I think this deck tries to do is it does try to be the Abzan aggro deck, and that's one of the things I love about it. I love Ronus right now. I love Glintsleeve Siphoner. I love Longtusk Cub. I love Winding Constrictor. I love a lot of what this deck is doing, but I actually don't think that you need to be playing blue to do these things. In fact, if you're a patron of $5 or more, you've seen, actually, I think Brian, somebody won a PBDQ with my green-black deck list that played Ronus. And I think that if you were trying to be the aggressive deck in this format of the Abzan variety, right? I think that like Ronus is a great fit. I think that Bristling Hydra and Verdurous Gearhulk are a great fit. I think Constrictor and Longtusk Cub is a great way to do it. I think that some number of Blossoming Defense is correct. I think that having this energy package is great, and I love that part of this deck. The thing that I don't like is actually don't think that you need Hostage Taker. I don't think that you need some of the sideboard cards. I mean, even in this deck, if you look at it, you're actually not playing Negate. So you're like losing out on a huge portion of why you would even want to play blue to try and become this slower, grindy deck post board, which I think that your deck is just going to be worse at than the other decks trying to do this. So for me, if I was going to do this, I would just cut the blue, I'd put in more Bristling Hydras, and I would become that aggressive deck. Maybe I play Vraska in the main. Michael, what about you? What are the things you love? What are the things you would change?
So I kind of agree with that. So one of the things I don't like about this deck is when you're playing this many 2-drops, I think that we're playing a black 2-drop, a green 2-drop, and a green-black 2-drop. And I think that playing a basic island is just you can't.
Yes.
You just can't. You don't get to. You're not the kind of deck that gets to do that. I think regardless of everything else.
Yeah, this is exactly what I posted in the Facebook group for the Constructed Critics. Is like, listen, right. I think that this deck is great, but the island is super bad.
It's the worst card in the deck by a lot, and this is not so when we talk about Scarab God in 4-color energy, you're splashing for cards that scale really well, right? All your black stuff is Scarab Gods and Vraskas, so your deck is designed to play a long game. This deck does not do that very well. You're trying to be kind of a tempo deck, and I like the cartouches, right? But I think that the island is bad. I think the Fetid Pools and Evolving Wilds are also bad. And I don't really want to play 8 fast lands in a deck with 6 4-drops.
So do you think that you would come? Oh, go ahead, Mason.
Well, I was just gonna say that if the goal was to be Abzan aggro, right? Then I think this deck is a little too slow and clunky for that, for all the reasons you guys just said. So I think if they want to really be Abzan aggro, then you should probably cut the blue. If maybe you want to be a slightly more mid-rangey deck, then I think the blue is fine. Maybe not with the cartouches, because I feel like that is at odds with part of the deck.
I do think that green blue that Sultai energy is a fine deck, even with Snake. But when you include things like Ronus, and when you include the stated goal of this person, I think that you lose the ability, right? So one of the things that I really like about this deck, right, is he's okay, so I want to be Abzan aggro. I want Anarch my opponent after playing a Long Tusk Cub. So he even includes Spell Pierce, right? So he is very in the main deck. His very clear goal between 4 Blossoming Defense and 2 Spell Pierce is I want to resolve a Long Tusk Cub, and I want that to be my game plan, right? Which is very similar to that Abzan aggro deck. I think that the thing is our mana isn't the same as it was when we were in a format where 3-color decks were the norm. So instead of playing the type of mana you get, you have Evolving Wilds and an island. And to Michael's point, it's not the same. This is exactly what I wanted to do when I was testing this deck. And the reason that I changed straight to green black when I was trying that out is because Hostage Taker is amazing in the mirror, but that's not an aggressive card. Negate is great post board, but I can just play different cards to be good in those matchups. And
so,
go ahead.
My ultimate point would just be that I don't think your main deck scales to the long game very well. You have some cards that are good and expensive.
You wanted to, though?
Well, but I think if you're playing a 3rd color and adding a bunch of tap lands, that's sort of the implication you're making, right? We're neglecting early game mana for more powerful cards, but I still don't think your deck scales very well because Hostage Taker is not a reliable plan when you only have 2 of them. The Spell Pierces don't scale well. I don't really understand what we're trying to do with Cartouche, and Blossoming Defense and Fatal Push definitely don't scale well, right? I mean, those cards, we're playing a tempo deck, and then we're saying, but instead of trying to win the game on turn 4 and 5, where basically we bury our opponent with some combination of Blossoming Defense and Fatal Push, we're going to add...
I actually do understand the Cartouche plus Spell Pierce Blossoming Defense game plan. What he's trying to...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that's the part of the deck that actually makes sense from the Abzan beatdown standpoint. It's the other cards that are counterintuitive to that to me. So the Hostage Taker doesn't fit at all with that game plan. It makes no and I'm not trying to beat up on you or anything. I'm just saying, like, it doesn't make sense that, like, you want to be an Abzan beatdown deck, but you want to play this 4-drop, you have to wait a turn to make another thing, or it's this long game card, when you could have just, like, what's it called, Vertigus Gear Hulk or Walking Ballista or something else like that can push damage.
Well, Mason, I don't know if you remember this, but, like, there was a tournament where I watched this dude, like, run through a tournament with Sultai Pummeler, but it played Snake, and I was like, did this dude break it? And I like made like 32 different versions of this deck, and I'm like, how did he fit all of these cards in, right? Like, how do you fit in Pummeler, Blossoming Defense, Spell Pierce, Pump Spells in this deck? Like, I saw he had Ronus, I saw he had Rishkar, I saw he had Vertigus Gear Hulk, and like the truth is like, I don't think that you can. And I think that this deck, when you look at like Cartouche Knowledge and stuff like that, is trying to do that. And I actually really do respect what it's trying to do. But I think at the end of the day, you need to very clearly pick a lane.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Like, but I also like that. Like, that's what they said, right? They have a game plan for the format. They're like, I want to be the Abzan aggro deck. I want to curve out on people. I want to beat them up. I just think that along the way we got a little misguided or a little too cute on a couple of the cards. And then some of the cards that the main one that you mentioned is Negate, in my opinion, is one of the main reasons to be blue is not there. So that would be the thing I would say is that if you are going to continue to play the strategy and maybe you're just going to switch up some of the cards, maybe add Vertigus Gear Hulk's main deck, try and streamline it a bit, I would find a way to fit Negate into my sideboard.
Probably not play the Scarab Gods post board because I think that you're diluting your game plan. Maybe
my thought with the Scarab God, any deck you would possibly side the Scarab God in against is a better Scarab God deck than you are.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, no, I would take those out and maybe even the Vraska's.
And in those matchups, Cartouche of Knowledge is great, right? Like you're saying, you do your Scarab God thing, I'm going to play Cartouche of Knowledge. In those situations where you would board in Scarab God, Cartouche of Knowledge is just better anyway.
Right. Like I actually want more. I want more negates and like blossoming defenses, and I want to try to counter removal spells and just kill them with Ronus and anything. Yeah.
Cool. So that's it for the Deck Doctor. Thank you so much for submitting that. If you're a patron of $5 or more per month, you can submit anything you want there. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We're going to move right on to our power rankings. Skip card of the week this week. They will come back in January. So if you're a patron for $50 a month, you can be eligible for that. We're going to go into Modern this week.
Magic's most popular format.
It is Magic's most popular format. And the thing that I wanted to do is kind of highlight, like, I don't know why you're laughing so much.
Michael's face. He's just like, that's where we're at, huh?
It's just true. I think that the thing is like, so I started doing just Modern challenges. And the thing that I realized is that I actually want to do what Goldfish is doing right now, which is combining them for the last month. So coming in 5th place on MTG Goldfish, we do have Green-Black Tron. And I'd like to kind of highlight the list that is on screen, because I feel like it's really close to a streamlined version of the deck. Maybe -1 Relic, +1 Fatal Push, but it's like really close, Michael. And I kind of wanted to get your opinion, as well as Mason's opinion, as somebody who plays against a lot of Tron lands. But we have 2 Walking Ballista, 3 Wormcoil Engine. That might be one more than usual. 1 Ulamog, 1 Emrakul, the Promised End, which has become really popular. 4 Karn Liberated, 2 Ugin the Spirit Dragon, 4 Ancient Stirrings, 2 Fatal Push. This is a little bit less than normal. 4 Sylvan Scrying, 4 Chromatic Sphere, 4 Chromatic Star, 4 Expedition Map, 3 Relic of Prodigious, maybe 1 more than normal, 3 Oblivion Stone, super normal, and then 19 lands, including 1 Ghost Quarter, 1 Sanctum of Ugin, and then the Tron lands, as well as some Llanowar Wastes. The sideboard in this deck, I think the sideboards differ a lot. The one that we have on screen is 1 Swamp, 1 Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Nature's Claim, 2 Thoughtseize, 3 Collective Brutality. This can be actually taking some of the main deck stocks that we talked about that kind of people waver on. 1 Warping Well, 2 Thought-Knot Seer, 3 Thragtusk. Thragtusk super normal, Thoughtseize super normal, Warping Well super normal. But what is the reason that this deck, that by all accounts was the best deck at the GP that we just did a couple weeks ago, has dropped to number 5, and also the numbers are just completely different on a lot of cards.
It's also great.
I mean, Tron is just a metagame deck, right? Like, I mean, everything in Modern is a metagame deck. That's kind of the secret, right? That like the matchups are so polarized that you're really just trying to kind of jump in at the right place on the wheel. And you know, this was the right place on the wheel 2 weeks ago, but it's probably not the right place on the wheel today.
Yeah.
I think just fundamentally that's about all you can say. I really like this list in particular. I really like Llanowar Wastes over Blooming Marsh. I really think it's not worth the
There's a few lists that did that.
Yeah, I know that people like they're not always split the exact same way, and some people are playing mono green. I like black because it gives you. I mean, the matchup still sucks, but it gives you like a slightly less terrible storm matchup because you get to side in spells. But like, it's hard to side in too many spells in Tron because your best thing in every matchup is just turn 3 Karn. So it's kind of always something.
Yeah, which disrupts the fact, and I think that's why Collective Brutality kind of moved to the board, right? It's like, so a lot of decks
you
are playing
can't
two-
really play.
Yeah,
You
a lot
can't
of them
play
were
like
playing
6.
Yes.
They were playing like 4 pushes and 2 brutalities. And you can't really play like 6.
No.
There aren't 6
And-
flex slots.
And the thing is that so many people were playing Collective Brutality in the main, and even today, if you look at lists on MTGO and in paper, there's a lot of 2 Collective Brutality in the main list, right? And like, if you look at this list, it's only Black Spell main is those 2 Fatal Push, which is kind of why I highlighted it, is kind of the thing that Michael's talking about. Mason, there's a ton of Tron lands in your metagame.
There was for a while, yeah. So Michael talked about it, how it's like you're just trying to, like, in Modern, be at the right spot in the metagame, and how, like, specifically against Storm is where was one of the matchups where you want these 3 brutalities and these 2 thought seizes. I kind of fall into the camp of I'd rather make my main deck a little bit more consistent and just be the mono green and kind of give up that matchup, because I don't think you actually get that much from bringing in these cards. I mean, I guess it gives you a hope, but I feel like your best hope against Storm is just like play a turn 3 Karn.
Well, I think the question basically is like how much of a cost is actually playing
Yeah.
3 Llanowar Wastes? Because the only thing that really
But is
like
it actually good? That's my question. Because I don't think
well,
it's actually
well,
that
you're
good.
just
that matchup it
you're
is.
just comparing Fatal Push to Dismember. Like
Right.
Do Tron decks normally play Dismember? Like the mono
Yeah,
green?
the
mono
mono
green
green
ones
ones
do,
they
yeah.
do Dismember, yeah.
Okay, I did not notice that. Okay, sure.
this
That's
is
fair.
it's just a mono green list that's playing Fatal Push over Dismember.
Well,
I think maybe
yeah,
the bigger innovation is that like you get their different sideboard obviously, but
Yeah.
I
The
mean,
real change is like it does play 1 extra Emrakul, or not 1 extra Worm Coil, and it is splitting with the
but
Emrakul.
those are flex slots, right? Like that's not
Well,
like
kind of, except that
standardization.
Emrakul is now universally adopted, so it's no longer a flex slot. It might actually just be correct.
So I mean, they probably are mostly playing it like they're not all playing it. There are a bunch of them still playing like a World Breaker. There are varying numbers
Or
of
two.
walking ballistas, varying numbers of like if I just choose the next list down from that same challenge.
Yeah, there is. Yes, it is a
It's-
World Breaker.
It's
in-
just kind of like, and
But
sometimes
the next one is a World Breaker and an Emrakul.
and 2 Ulamogs
Yeah,
and an
And
All Is
then-
Dust, right?
and then
like,
the next one is a World Breaker again.
Yeah, I like World Breaker
So
with
there's
the
just
Worm
there's
Coil.
just some mix of but a lot of these are playing 3 Worm Coils and a world like there's some mix
No,
of
it's
like-
Worm Coil, Ulamog, World Breaker, and Emrakul is like a mix here, and you need to
you're
decide
playing
what you want
6
to
to
play.
10. 6 to
It's
10.
It's
Those
5,
relic slots are pretty
5
much
to 8,
up in
right?
that.
Are
There
you
are
in-
some that are playing more.
Are they not playing Ugin?
I'm not counting Ugin.
Yeah, Ugin
Well, I'm
feels
just
like
trying
it
to
has to be
figure out
played.
where the slots come in.
It would
but-
be
but
Ulamog,
what I-
the Worm Coil, and the
They're
Emrakul.
trimming on the relics in the main.
Well, that's a lot of relics in the list that we have on screen, which is kind of something that I mentioned. But
But that that might be good, right? I mean, what I'm saying
No,
is like
sure.
that's like the last flex slot in the
I
deck.
mean,
the
even
Fatal
if
Push
you
is pretty
look,
clearly some removal spell.
even if you look at like what we're just talking about, right? Like it's like, okay, so I want to specifically beat Storm. My best draws are my Karn draws, and I can't actually get a Karn draw and a World Breaker draw in the same sequence of turns. So what I do instead, I increase the number of relics in my deck, which is what the deck on screen has, right?
Right.
And then so you you do the thing that Michael and myself kind of are talking about here, right? It's like I like this list is kind of what I'm getting at. Like if I as much as I do like Collective Brutality in the main, it might not be the time for that, and it also might not be the time for mono green, unless you want to play something like Thought-Knot in the main.
Yeah, I mean, I more than anything, the more I have played Tron, the less I like it.
Yeah, I tried. So we probably might have done this at the
feels-
same time. The mono green list. Did you try that too?
I've tried basically every Tron variant for at least a couple of leagues, and I just think Tron is kind of bad.
My problem
Like,
with it is
fundamentally.
that there's a fundamental problem where like there aren't good enough colorless cards in Modern to let you just play a colorless deck. And this is the reason I think that Eldrazi Tron gains like equity, is because people think that because they had those Thought-Knot draws, it makes up for the fact that they don't get real cards. And if there's anything that I've noticed, it's like I would honestly rather be playing Bant Eldrazi than all of these Tron decks.
Bant Eldrazi is a fine deck. I mean, it does a good job at curving. I would also say Eldrazi Tron gets Chalice, which is something you brought up on the show a lot, that it's the best Chalice deck. Which
It's
is
the
true.
only Chalice deck.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
Well, you can play Chalice in Bant Eldrazi.
Well, you could, but putting it on
Kind of.
one is like kind of terrible, right? Because you play Birds, Nobles, Paths, and Ancient Stirrings, so that just seems like, I'd rather
Michael
have a ham
literally
sandwich.
qualified for a Pro Tour with Chalice in his deck, so.
No, I did not. I didn't have Chalice in that deck.
Oh,
I had...
two?
No,
fake
I-
news.
No.
Hashtag.
But, I mean, I've seen people play them in the board before.
Oh yeah,
You try
I'm
to get
pretty
it
sure I've
onto
seen him as
against
two of in the
Storm.
board. I thought that you did it too.
But
No,
you can bring them in the matchups
but-
so it's worth it, right? Like that's just a decision
Well,
thing.
yeah,
We're cutting hairs here, but
But I think the problem with Tron, and if you look at the list on the screen, right, like the first thing that we didn't even mention, right, like not even. It's so weird to think about, but like, I think that Tron isn't sure where it wants to be, right? This deck plays 0 Ancient Stirrings. Or no, it plays all 4.
It plays 4.
I
Yep.
just missed them. I just missed them.
Yep.
I think the problem with Tron is that it's too linear. You have too many cards that do the same thing,
I
right?
actually don't know what my problem with
you
this
have
is
you have
then.
all of these. No, you just have all these matchups where like anything but turn 3 Karn on the play isn't good enough,
Mhm.
and that's a lot of your matchups.
Well,
a lot of your matchups you basically can
maybe
only
the problem
win
is
with
actually
matchups.
the benefit that I see to this deck, right? So like, and this list specifically, we talked about how like the World Breaker Karn draws don't exist, but that's also true of the Ancient Stirring Karn draws, right? Like, if you have to Ancient Stirrings, you can't Karn on
Well,
curve.
You
I mean,
can
you
with the
need
Chromax,
sphere.
but yeah.
It's like you can do it with a sphere or a
Oh,
star.
sure, that's true.
With stirrings
That's true.
or scrying. But the problem more
that's not the
fundamentally
same thing.
is
That's not on curve.
So I think
yeah,
what it goes
you
back.
can do it on 3. You go turn 1 star, turn 2 scrying, or
Yeah.
turn 3 land.
Okay.
That does it. But the problem is that is basic. There are
That's not
so
3,
many
though.
decks where that is the only
You're
way
short
you
man
can
on
win.
that.
You're
No.
not, Spencer. Because you turn 1, you play a sphere. Turn 2, you play another Tron land. Pop your sphere, get a green, tap your land, play scryings, go get a Tron land, play a Tron land, play a card.
No, he said on 3 he was playing.
No. On 1 you play your star. Before 3 you play your spell. On 3
Oh,
you play.
before 3. I thought you said on
Yes.
3 you played Stirring.
No.
Yeah.
No, but the problem is that basically turn 3 Karn is good against everything, but when you don't have that, there are so many matchups where your deck is just like you're basically trying. You have all these, so you'll have like a Wormcoil Engine, right? And Wormcoil Engine is a really good Magic card, but
Yes.
no one would build a combo deck around playing Wormcoil Engine. And
No, I
so
think
many
that's
of your
actually
draws
increased.
actually like just make a Wormcoil Engine, and it's like a turn 4 Wormcoil Engine, and that's fine. But you still have such a high chance to like lose a game where in a matchup that should be okay, where you like you just lose games where you actually assemble Tron and you're kind of doing it.
Well, and I think that you kind of hit a lot of a nail on the head here, is that you're pretty happy playing Wurmcoil Engine. I think that's why you see an increase there. And when you look at kind of the breakdown of the way the deck has changed, right? You and I were really big on the mono green version, right? That was like some Thought-Knot Seers in the main. You played Eldrazi Temple in the main, right? But the truth is that this deck has always and will always just be a Karn deck. And when that can be disrupted easily, right? Meaning that you're so linear that when the format focuses on you, when there's as many Molten Rains in the 75s as there is right now, it's bad for you.
It's not even that. I just think it's like actually too hard. You just don't have turn 3 Karn enough of the time. You just can't have turn 3 Karn often enough for this deck.
Let's talk about the much worse turn 3 Karn deck.
Choice.
Mason's favorite deck and your favorite deck. So we have Eldrazi.
So I want to talk about that real quick. So the turn 3 Karn deck, it's much worse. So Todd Stevens did his 12-hour streaming thing yesterday, and his first deck he played was Eldrazi, because that was the deck that he first started doing well with at SCG. So he cut all the Karn from his deck, though, and just replaced them with more Endbringers, which I thought was a really smart addition. So he's not a Karn deck anymore. And he's trying to lower his curve.
That's a Sam Party innovation, I believe.
Okay, sure. So that was the first time I had seen it, but I like that personally. How many
Umogs was he playing then?
I have the list on my phone. Yeah, I think it's
probably 0. The list Sam Party is playing it's the only it's just 2 is so many. Jesus.
Yeah, I'll send this in our chat.
The Sam Party list is just
Andrew's in chat saying he did that first.
4 Endbringers, no Karns, more spells. Basically, it's just more of an actual mid-range deck with Chalice of the Void, which I personally like better. But I just generally think like your actual problems with this deck are that your sideboard is bad and Chalice of the Void is great, but it's sort of like so great that anytime this deck gets hot, people just stop.
Nathan, the list you just sent me has Karn and Ulamog.
Oh, maybe it was a different one in the thing. Sorry. Well, there's a version that he played that doesn't have Karn. Sorry. I'll find it.
If you find Sam Party's 5-0 list from, it's probably a couple of weeks ago now.
Okay, let's talk about this really quick, because it's funny that we said the worst Karn deck, right? But this is the better Chalice Thought-Knot Seer deck, Michael.
It's the only Chalice deck.
I think this is better than Tron in general.
Well, let's talk about it. I think this deck is the worst highly played deck in Modern. Its benefit is that, in my opinion, its main benefit is the fact that Eldrazi Temple casts all its dust. And the Endbreaker is secretly a great Magic card.
Yeah, Endbringer's really good.
Endbringer always impresses me.
This deck is good if the metagame gets mid-rangey.
Yeah, that's the real truth of this deck, right? Is that anytime the game drags out, you're going to win.
Yeah, if the game just goes long, you're pretty favored. Because your deck is full of, 6-drop. It's a lot like Bant Eldrazi, right? You're playing a bunch of 6-drops, and if the game is about you played something that wasn't a 6-drop and I played a 6-drop, then yeah, I probably won.
Michael, you and I joked about this deck pretty early on, and the fact that its sideboard makes no sense, right? You have Hangerback Walker in the sideboard, Walking Ballista in the main. You have these weird Ratchet Bomb, Warping Will. Just the sideboard has gotten better. It makes more sense to the current meta. But how do you, when you sit down for an event and you want to play this deck, you have to be pretty confident that Chalice of the Void is good, or that Thought-Knot Seer is really good, right?
My experience has mostly been that you have to be confident no one's playing Affinity.
Yeah, you have to be confident that it's a fair metagame, right? If people are Affinitying or Storming or Titan Shifting,
I think this deck is fine against Storm. You literally can't beat Affinity. Affinity is this deck's worst matchup.
You have to draw Chalice, but yeah.
Well, sure, but that's your whole deck, right? Is the point is trying to draw Chalice. The thing I kind of agree with Michael. I think that you want to play against fair decks where Thought-Knot Seer is good, and that the unfair decks can't beat Chalice. And when you do that, you do end up with a deck with the right mixture of spells.
Yeah, I think that this is basically just a mid-range deck, and it's sort of a strange one, but Chalice makes up for a lot of your own mana inefficiency by being like just really, really difficult to beat at times. And then you also have, I mean, mostly when this deck assembles Tron, you just get like Walking Ballista out of games, but that can be pretty good.
Well, and that is the way that it beats Affinity too.
I mean, the way that it beats Affinity is it doesn't. I have played that matchup so much, and I can tell you this deck will basically never beat Affinity.
I watched it beat Affinity with Walking Ballista.
It's probably worse than 1090.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a really bad matchup, and they do not
Legitimately,
have
it's
Ravager
actually
to do that.
impressive.
Yeah. I do think that this deck is one of the biggest metagame decks in Modern in a metagame format, and that's okay. Like, you just have to recognize that going into an event.
Yeah, if you like this deck, Ben White's just 5-0'd with like a red-green Eldrazi deck. I don't think it's playing any Chalice of the Voids, but you know, if you just need to get your Eldrazi fix, if you need to get your 4 Endbringer fix.
So wait, hang on. So the deck is like this, but without Chalice.
Yeah, but with like Mana Dorks and Ancient Stirrings and
that sounds kind of interesting.
spells or whatever.
It's not actually Eldrazi; it's green.
The
Eldrazi
Eldrazi can be any color they want, Spencer. All right.
Yeah, but like that's just closer. That's way closer to the mono green Tron deck with Thought-Knots here than it is to this deck.
No, it's not. I mean, it's playing for Eldrazi Obligator, for Matter Reshaper, for Thought-Knots here, for Smasher, for Endbringer, and it's playing like Lightning Bolts and stuff. I mean,
Whoa.
just
hold on.
Eldrazi.
We should just talk about how sweet Modern is. The fact that we're arguing about this point, like I don't
Modern is
love
fun
Modern,
right now.
but the fact that like this is what we're talking about just means that Modern is a little bit sweeter than people give it credit for.
Yeah, I think Modern's okay. There are like at least a lot of decks that are decent, so
Being a lot of decks are
probably
decent.
find something.
Let's talk about Jeskai and the fact that people are categorizing a deck as Jeskai Geist that doesn't have any Geists in it.
Well, it's the tempo game
Sometimes
plan,
it has
right?
guys in it.
No, it is. It's Jeskai Tempo. There's a lot of them that have them in the sideboard. There's a lot of them that have 4 of them in the main. But the list that I want to talk about is the one that we have on screen here by Paxty. I think that he has another 5-0 earlier than the month. But one of the things that we see here is it's like a tempo deck with Search for Azcanta, 4 Ops, 4 Snapcasters, 4 Spell Quellers, some Logic Knots. Michael, this looks like the way that you might build Jeskai today.
I like Search a lot. I was trying that in some Through the Breach decks, and that was like the best card in the deck by a substantial margin. I'm interested to see him playing it with Logic Knot. That's aggressive, but
that was one of the things I saw, right? 3 Logic Knot, 2 Search for Azcanta. It means that he's trying to either really bleed the search.
I mean, a lot of the time you can just your Logic Knot gets cast early in the game, and it's not that big a deal. But like the Logic Knot Search for Azcanta Snapcaster Mage deck is definitely, we're going to decide how much we can tax the graveyard.
Well, you
We're
can
gonna find out, right?
So I played a deck that was like 70 of the 75 the first weekend as Azcanta was legal in Modern, and you can do it. Like, Search for Azcanta
because so often your Logic Knot is just for 1, right?
Yeah, your Logic Knot's for 1, and your Snapcasters, you just like get there eventually. And when Search for Azcanta flips, it's pretty easy to take over the game. I think the weird thing about this is this deck falls into the Jeskai Geist category, and they put so many Jeskai control decks in that category, and this is like the most controlly one I've seen so far. That falls in that category.
It does fall under the tempo game plan, right? Where like your entire game plan is like a Snapcaster burn, Spell Queller, Vendilion Click kind of game plan.
Yes.
So it's still a tempo deck, but that's just
it's still a tempo,
works
but
in Modern.
it's the closest I've seen to control, like of switching it up. You know what I mean? There are a lot of lists that fall into this camp on MTGO on Goldfish that are just like the control deck without any of these tempo cards. But what I was saying is, I think you can play Search for Azcanta and Snap and Logic Knot and not have that big a problem with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm certainly not saying that it's like impossible. It's just he's really pushing how far you can go with it. That's all.
And I think that like pushing the limits is something that really rewards you in Magic. I like where this is this is something that, like, if I was playtesting for a modern event, this is the kind of villain deck that I would want to play in playtesting.
Yeah, I have not been that happy with Cryptic Command
Yeah, 3 of is a lot.
in this metagame as a whole.
Did you cut all of them or one of them? Just to
depends on what you're trying to do, but you probably have to keep some, especially.
I think that cutting one of them for something else is pretty reasonable.
Like, this deck has a lot of ways to disguise what you're holding up between Search for Azcanta and like Vendilion Click and Spell Queller. So I think they're a little bit better, but it's just it's not a Magic card I particularly love.
You green, you red. Gift Storm is next. This is the only deck that I've heard from multiple podcasts is getting the let's ban something hammer. And it is almost entirely off of the interaction between Baral and Remand. But this deck, Baral did it, guys. Like, he made Storm great again. What do we think of this?
I think this deck is really good, but I also think it's probably the hardest deck.
Yeah, I think that the first thing that we see in the list that we're showing, no fetch lands. I think that is 100% correct.
Yeah, so the basic idea just being that the Blood Moons got a lot less good once people started playing them. So there was a period of time where everyone was playing Blood Moon in the sideboard of their deck, but then everyone was playing them, so everyone was playing around them. And then you just take substantially less damage with this mana-based setup versus when you're playing like 8 fetch lands. And often that buys you an extra turn.
Yeah. Yep. What do you think of the Baral Remand interaction, Mason?
I don't know. I don't think that's the reason this deck is too good. I think that it only plays Remand because of Baral. Well, I understand that. Like, that if Baral didn't have that text, they wouldn't, but they would just play another cantrip card, right? That's just a card that lets them buy another turn, draw another card, and with Baral draw two, essentially draw 2, right? Because you loot 1. I think.
Do you actually think something will be banned from this deck?
I think.
I don't. Argument. It's just the thing that people are saying is that the Baral Remand interaction is the reason this deck came back. But I feel like they were playing Baral before they were playing Remand anyway.
Yeah, so I think the reason they came back is that with Baral plus gifts, you can kill someone on turn 4, right? Like, pretty consistently. It isn't hard. Yeah, I mean
they banned Twin, and this does a similar thing.
Yeah, and also,
I mean, I think Opt has been huge for this deck. Just getting another cantrip.
That has also helped a lot. But the deck was already performing really well before Opt. Like, it had won 2 or 3 SUG Opens.
Sure.
Before that, and it was performing on Magic Online. So I think Opt helped a lot. As for the ban conversation, I think the reason.
Did it?
Yeah, it did. I was at the SUG where I got like second place, and then the one before that was the weekend had won. And then it wins like another weekend before that. It was doing really well in the SUG circuit for a while, which is what it is. But what I was going to say about the banning is, I think if there was a reason for something to be banned, it's because they banned so many Storm cards. They might actually ban a card with Storm on it instead.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, if you just ban everything with Storm and then unban Preordained and Ponder, I'd be totally okay with that.
I wouldn't go that far, but I think you could ban Grape Shot and leave them empty the warrens as their win con.
And then I think that if you literally just... I don't agree with that at all. I think that you should just ban every card with Storm, ban the deck out of the format, and just unban all the cantrips.
I don't know. I mean, like, you legitimately... they should ban this deck?
I don't know if they should.
I think that Storm is the actual birthing pod of cards. Like they're like, you can't have birthing pod because then it inhibits other cards from being printed. And I think that the way that the Storm mechanic works is it actually inhibits more cards from being printed or enable. Like, you saw Baral, right? Like, nobody was like, this card's the nuts, right? But the second that somebody was like, oh, this makes it so the fact that they banned all of my cantrips not matter and all my cantrips become insane again, I don't know, like, is Opt, like, the fact that Opt is seeing play in Modern is, and the fact that Serum Visions sees plays in Modern is kind of disgusting. Like,
I never understood that mentality. Why is it disgusting? They're the best cantrips we have, and they do a fine job. Like, we don't have Ponder
Serum
Preordain.
Vision certainly doesn't do a fine job. It's
good enough that every blue deck that wants a cantrip puts that in there, right? So clearly it's like the best thing we have.
Two decks, so like Grixis, Shadow, and Storm?
And Jeskai, and like...
No. There's many Jeskai decks that don't play this card, unless they're playing Search.
Right.
Like, there's so many Jeskai decks that would rather play Thought Scour, and the thing is like, so much of that is because they want to fill their graveyard, right? So, like, that's... sure, it's a 1-mana spell that fills your graveyard.
See, but I kind of like that you have to actually choose cantrips for functionality other than just being the best cantrip. I'm pretty sure you would make Death Shadow substantially better with Ponder and Preordain.
So, hold on. So I would be totally fine if they only unban Preordain because it's better than control than combo-ish decks and better. And just, I don't know why you're getting into this because, like, I don't think anything needs to be banned in Modern. But the fact that
no, sorry, you guys
about,
just kept saying that you think something's going to get banned out of Storm, and that would shock me because I don't think this deck is especially oppressive.
No, it's just the thing that people are talking about. They're saying that the fact that it wins so quickly should be banned.
Yeah,
and what I'm saying is, if you're going to ban something out of Storm, it should be Storm cards. Like, if you just don't want Storm to exist, like, it is the villain is Storm. It's not whatever it's not Remand. It's not Baral. It's not.
Yeah, it's the Grape Shot just kills you.
Yeah, it's just that like. It's the mechanic. They've done it in Pauper, right? Like, they banned every Storm card. They're finally in Pauper. They were like, all right, clearly we can't actually print a common without breaking Storm, so let's just ban Storm. And I think that Modern eventually will get to the same place where it's like, yeah, we can't actually print a card in Modern without breaking Storm. And I think if they did that, maybe Ponder's a little too good. I actually agree with that. Like, Ponder is in a world in certain worlds, Ponder is better than Brainstorm. But I think that
is that a world without fetch lands?
Yeah,
Ponder is never better than Brainstorm. Let's get this.
Hold on.
Is the poorest form of
Hold on, that's not true. In a world without fetch lands, that's not true. But
no, I mean Brainstorm literally lets you Hearthstone mulligan in the middle of a game.
Yeah,
it's really not.
I
fair.
like how you said that.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. You're like you feel like you're playing a game of Hearthstone and you're like, oh, I don't want these anymore. These were bad.
Yeah.
It's not. It's actually a little bit better than a Hearthstone mulligan in a lot of times because. No, it's actually the same thing because I feel like I draw the cards I mulligan in Hearthstone 100% of the time. So
you have more full information, right? Like, because when you're casting a Brainstorm, you're often like, you already This isn't like, hey, I should get more 1-drops. This is like, I factually know this card is going to suck in this game because it already sucks. I already have it.
Yeah.
Let's go to the number one deck that would love Preordain or Ponder.
Oh man,
and this deck was not in our top 5 during the GP weekend. And that is Grixis Death Shadow. So I think that this deck came back for 2 reasons. First of all, they decided to play 3 Stubborn Denial again. Second of all, they decided to play Temur Battle Rage again. And third...
people like this deck.
The deck was always good.
Yeah, I mean, things ebb and flow a little bit, but this deck is clearly very good.
Yeah. We're just at a point where this deck is good, like the beginning of our power rankings, right? We're coming full circle like Modern. Grixis Death Shadow is just good right now. It's a deck that Magic players love to play because you get lots of choices and a lot of interaction, and it's fun.
Always good.
Yeah,
it's not good right now. It's like some style of deck like this is basically always going to be good. The only thing that I hate that seems to have become commonplace lately is the 12 fetch lands, 4 shock lands, 4 Thought Scour deck. Please play 11 fetch lands and the 5th shock land. Don't do this to yourself.
Tell us about that.
Okay, so Thought Scour is great until you mill all your fetchable lands, and then it's not great.
Michael, who did this to you? Like,
he did it to himself.
I mean,
yeah, he's clearly talking from a place of hurt.
I'm really surprised that this seems to become the commonplace because I'm pretty convinced it's just wrong.
So.
You should really play a second Blood Crypt.
So there's a few things in this list that I find interesting. The first thing is like I really like 3 Stubborn Denial, but the thing that I'm confused about is like, is the second Temur Battle Rage really worth it? And like, is the 1 Terminate, 2 Dismember, 1 Cold Expand correct? I don't know. I've got to do some thinking on this, but this list is interesting.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
So on the game podcast, they talked about how some people were cutting Tassigurs for 4 Gormag Anglers, just like to streamline it. What do you guys think about that? Or Gurmag Angler, sorry.
I think that the correct thing is 3 Gurmag, 1 Tassiger, personally.
It's close. It's a little bit awkward because Thought Scour Fetch will cast a turn 2 Tassiger with a 2nd mana up, where with Gurmag you need a 1 mana spell that you can cast proactively to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not. There are matchups where Tassiger is much better than Gurmag Angler, like Burn. Tassiger is like a lot better than Gurmag Angler in that matchup, just because you can play it percentage points more on turn 2. But in the mirror, Gurmag Angler is much better. And you're basically never going to activate Tassiger. So, I mean, drawing the second one it's horrible in one sense, because, like, you think, oh, playing 2 legendary creatures is the same. But it's also pretty rare that you actually, like, can just straight up cast a second one easily. It does happen here and there, but it's pretty rare that, like, you have a Tassiger in play, and you're not winning, and a second one would help, and you have, a bunch of cards in your graveyard to delve away for your hypothetical Gurmag Angler. So I don't think it's like super cut and dry. I think you want to play at least 1 Tassiger, and I waffle between 1-3 and 2-2 split.
Okay, cool.
Having played this deck a fair amount, like, they both have their upsides. I think if you start playing actually 4 Gurmag Angler, your burn matchup gets worse.
Yeah,
like,
probably.
maybe notably worse. Like 2 Temur Battle Rage. I have not liked Inquisition of Kozilek that much in this deck. I could
see playing 1-0
of Battle Rage.
No, of Kozilek.
Yeah, I've been playing 0 and playing 4. This is almost the exact list I've been playing when I've been playing this deck. I think I was playing Opts, so 4 Opt, 2 Serum Visions, 4 Thought Scour, and I kind of liked that because what it would let you do is a lot of the time it would let you decide how much life you wanted to pay after you'd seen your opponent's first action.
Sure.
Which is kind of nice, right? Like, because there are a bunch of matchups where you don't really want to take, like, you don't really want to be like Fetch Shock Thoughtseize when your opponent reveals you like a Goblin Guide. And you're like, oh, well, that wasn't good. So I think that, like, playing more Stubborns compared to where people had been, but just like playing more instant speed interaction.
Well, it's so funny when this deck was at the top of its height, they were playing 3 Stubborns. They cut back on Stubborns, the deck did worse again. And then they went back up and the deck did better. Is Stubborn Denial the key?
Well, Stubborn Denial is a funny card because it costs 1 mana, but it's not a turn 1 play.
Oh, it's not even close to turn 1. I mean,
you almost never.
Unless you're on the draw against like a Farseek or something.
You sometimes
even then you're probably gonna Serum Visions or Opt.
So
or even Thoughtseize.
I like casting it on the play against a Thoughtseize a lot of the time, or sometimes on the play against like an Ancient Stirrings or an Expedition map, but it's relatively unlikely that you get to Stubborn something on 1.
Sure.
So 3 is a little bit. It's tricky, right? Because like you can definitely, they're good, but they're only good when you're kind of already doing it. So you can definitely flood on them. But they're really, really good with Snapcaster Mage, like really, really, really good with Snapcaster Mage. Like probably the best thing in the deck with Snapcaster Mage by a substantial margin.
I think so. I think that depending on how you build your deck, and that's kind of what I was hinting at, is like the Modern is not built around creatures at this point. It is built around spells a little bit. and because of that, like Stubborn Denial kind of fills a weird role that helps things like Snapcaster Mage. And this is the deck that gets to execute on it, right? Like
it helps you run away with games that you get ahead in.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
it's like the same thing in Delver, right? Where like you like get ahead on board
right.
and then they get Wasteland Dazed or whatever, and like it's kind of the same thing, right? They spend 4 mana and you're like 1 mana no. Exactly. And then they spend 4 mana again and you're like Snapcaster 3 mana total no.
And even in Legacy, while it might not actually cost you 1 mana, it costs you 1 mana, right? You can't, for the listeners, you can't see my quotation marks there, but like so often, like you're spending parts of your game for other advantages, and I do think that in this format right now, Grixis Shadow gains that through that card.
This is an interesting deck. I'll be curious to see how it performs at the Pro Tour. One of the things I like best about playing this deck online is that it's really, really good against just nonsense. Like if your opponent's just like playing land destruction or like something weird, this deck is almost 100%. And I'm curious to see as the metagame, like you play a tighter metagame, how good this deck is.
Mason, what would you play in Wine Modern right now?
Well, if I was just playing for fun, I'd play the Valley Town deck that Todd Stevens plays. That deck is a lot of fun. It is just a blast to play. It's not very good, but man, do I have fun playing that deck. If I had to play a real tournament, probably be Shift or Tron. Although I don't really think Tron's very well positioned, but it'd probably just be Shift end of the day. Green red. What about you, Spencer?
It's moving to me.
Hot potato.
I posted 2 lists. I just updated the list. I might play some games with Grixis Shadow, but I would be on Grixis Shadow or Scape Shift. I think that specifically Naya Shift, I might try a few things with Prismatic Omen that might change my mind, but on paper, there is not a list in this top 5 other than Storm that Shift doesn't have a great matchup against. Because of that, I would think that there's a way to build it to beat everything, including Storm, after board. However, I think that Grixis Shadow is just like underappreciated right now, so I might just play that.
Yeah, I really like Grixis Shadow, but I also like
I kind of wonder though, is there not a place for like Abzan Shadow or Bug Shadow in a format like this?
Maybe the problem with the problem with those decks compared to Grixis is just like the mana efficiency of this deck is so much better.
Sure.
Like you look at the curve, and this is a deck playing. I mean, it's playing Snapcaster Mage to be like an artificial 3 sometimes, but like a lot of these lists are just actually playing basically close to 30 1-drops.
So, Michael,
like
what would
either 1-drops or
play?
effective 1-drops. I mean, I really like Grixis Shadow, but I kind of can't help but wonder if it's not a deck that preys on your opponent making mistakes. Like, one of the things that I really like about it is that there's a lot of play to it, and you're almost never, like, completely locked out of a game.
Sure.
But the higher the level the event you go to, I'm not sure, like, the less valuable that gets, right? So I think that Storm might actually be the better deck, and I may spend a bunch of time working on that, seeing if I can get to a place where I feel comfortable with it.
Cool. Well, before we move on to our training notes, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
And we're back.
Yeah, so we are back with our training rounds for this week. This week's training rounds is pretty simple. So it's the end of 2017, the beginning of 2018, and we just want to talk really quick about 2017 as a whole, and then 2018 as the future. So let's go round table here. So what was your goal for 2017? I'll start, as we've kind of hinted at. My goal was a 72% win percentage in Magic the Gathering in paper for 2017.
And
so I haven't looked. What?
I was gonna say in context, what's Owen's win percentage again? Owen Turnewald.
I think his is lower than mine.
It was
But
69%.
He only plays in GPs and stuff.
Only plays GPs and Pro Tours. That's right.
I think his was 66 actually.
I can look it up. Keep going. I just want to point out how crazy your goal was. It was really
no. But so I hit 66 or 68 before this week. I went 11-0 in paper to try and pad my stats, winning 2 standard showdowns. But I think that my goal was, first of all, unreasonable. And second of all, stupid. So the reason that I picked my goal was I believed if I achieved my goal, I would achieve other goals that I would reasonably have, right? Like qualifying for Pro Tours, winning PPTQs. Like if I just had a 72% win percentage, like I would achieve anything else I wanted in Magic, right? So that's why I wanted my goal. But the problem with my goal was if I do this, I have to play in events that don't matter to actually achieve it. Does that make sense, Michael?
Right. That it would be sick if you could have a 70.
If I had a 72%
Pro Tour win percentage or whatever. But
if I had a 72% win percentage in GPs, you can deck check me every round. That's not reasonable.
I think there's the highest in the world right now. There is one guy at 71.7. There's Fabrizio Anteri at 71.6.
Seems like
who
cheaters.
was banned for cheating.
I would say, is that the cheat guy? That's funny. I didn't want to out someone on the podcast.
So in order to achieve my goal, I would have had to play in many, many local weekly events, and that doesn't actually feed my overall arching goals. So my goal was flawed. And the reason that I picked this goal, we will get into, but it's because I had a kid. And it's I'm just going to play more Wednesday events and less Grand Prix. What actually happened is I played more Grand Prix and less weekly events. And because of that, things just kind of got a little bit wonky. I am overall happy, right? My win percentage in Magic was unreasonable this year. Well, and there were times where it was above 72%.
Sure, but I mean, there's also just it also invests you in events you don't really necessarily care about that much.
I just played in 2 standard showdowns and was I don't actually care about the end result other than me going undefeated.
Right, and at that point, it's why am I even playing?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. That's the worst part, the less fun part of it, right?
Yeah. My other goal was to win PPTQs in every season I cared about. I did that. It was a little too easy. I think I won 2 in my first weekend, and I won 1 where I only played 3 PPTQs, and the other one, which was at the beginning of football season, which I dedicate to my wife. We just watch football games together, both college and pro. So I just don't have weekends during that time. I didn't win one, but top 8 at 3 of 4. I did well enough during 2017 for what was happening. What about you, Michael? What was your goal for? I mean, I can tell people your goal. You said you hoped you hit silver. In fact, I believe your exact quote during this episode last year was, "If I don't hit silver at this point, something went terribly wrong."
Yeah, I remember that. Because you were basically queued and you just had to show up and get your 3 pro points was what it was.
No. He needed 5 points, and he hadn't qualified for the last Pro Tour.
Oh, okay. So yeah, all he had to do was qualify.
No, I mean, I wouldn't have even played Pro Tour or Aether Revolt yet.
I remember it
a year ago.
That's what you said.
I mean, I may have said that at a different point, but I wouldn't have said that right now.
Okay.
You
because
definitely
I
said
would
that,
have
though.
been.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
think
but
you
not.
did.
I mean,
I remember being
I
at
said
work
that
and
it-
going,
Did you
I said
have
that it did.
11? Did you have 11 points from GPs already?
No.
Okay. I also remember you saying that, but maybe Mason and I are wrong. But it wasn't at this point in the
It
year.
was at a different point in time. Yeah, because I had a 3 in. I would be missing still 6 of my GP points plus 6 of my Pro Tour points at this
Okay.
point last year. So
But your goal was still silver.
yes, but it was
How
more
did you
like
do?
well, I got silver, so you know that's good, kind of. I mean, silver is like it's good, but it's not like you know
Hold on.
super insane.
well, you
or-
you have to get you have to get silver to get to gold, right? Like you hit it along
right?
the
No,
way.
no, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
also you qualified for your first Pro Tour the year you got silver.
Right.
It does help that you qualified for your first Pro Tour, the first Pro Tour of a season, but
Sure.
but I do think that like, for a lot of listeners, like following you through that has been a huge part of their lives.
No, I mean it's cool to like have things go well. Obviously, just like I think I think I can do better than I did last
Pro
year
Tour.
going forward. Yeah, specifically
I think your GPs were great. Like, you obviously didn't top 8-1, which is fine, and I think that you can do better at the Pro Tours. But like, if you just have 2 good Pro Tour finishes, it might
right,
change your entire season.
right. No, and I mean that's true. And like I don't know, I have never. I mean, I'm sure I could find a calculator that would tell you like to like what your average wins, what your average finish at a Grand Prix would be, and like how many standard deviations above you need to. So like what percentage of Grand Prix basically you'll top 8. But I know my GP win percentage is good, and like I think
you have 3 top 16s now.
yeah, something like that.
It's pretty good, man.
So it'll get there, but I was happy with how things went, mostly because I wasn't like the planning stuff out portion of it, just like trying to figure out what events you're supposed to play and why, trying not to just like waste money playing events you don't need to. I feel like I got better at that throughout the year, and sort of like my preparation level for Grand Prix also got better, and I learned sort of what I like to play, how I need to prepare for events, that kind of stuff. So it was good, and it was a good year of learning for sure.
Mason, what was your goal?
So my goal was a lot different than your two. So I've like started really playing Magic back in like I'll say February or March, like actually trying to learn to play, and that went through a lot of things like getting the people in my local area together to start testing. Because before that, no one really tested in Nashville at all. And then from there, it's like working on my play inside the game, and then working on deck selection, making sure that like I'm on top of the metagame and stuff like that. So my goal was, and I kind of talked about at the beginning, was the biggest goal was to play well in the game, because I felt like a lot of the stuff outside the game I did pretty well, but in the game I make a lot of dumb decisions and do a lot of things. And like I said at the top of the show, just make plays and do things and not have a reason why. And that's just like a terrible thing to do in Magic. So tried to work on that and do all those things. And also I needed to win a PBDQ because I had like been half playing Magic and I top 8'd a bunch, but I never won. So I did that, and since
Did you
then
won your first PBDQ this year?
I won 3. Yeah.
Well, hold on. That's not what I asked.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
Shut up.
What?
I asked you a specific question, and you
I thought you said how many did you win this year? My bad. Sorry. Yes, I won my first one this year. So I had top 8 like 2 or 3.
Mason.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for bragging on the show.
You're welcome. I'm glad I could help.
No, I think that.
You want to talk about how quickly you won all yours in all those times, real quick again?
Hey.
Love you, Spencer. For those at home, you can't see something. Spencer's grabbing his state championship thing that Michael loves from 2012 and showing it to us again.
So,
what were you saying?
how do we feel about 2017? And I want to go first. And the reason is because I had a kid at the end of 2016, and I didn't know. I didn't know what it was going to be, and my life changed many times throughout 2017. And there are a few things that I realized. I wrote a whole article that I didn't even close to follow, where it was talking about Spencer and Magic, and how I was going to focus on content rather than Magic. And then they announced Bronze like 2 weeks later, and I only got 2 promo points this year. Which, so first of all, this year split into 2 seasons. So I have 2 promo points this season, and I could have had 5, or I conceded anyway. I could have had more, but I have 2 promo points this season. I still want to get Bronze. I'm not even close. And there are a few things that I look back on 2017 as like a pretty big disappointment. GP Vegas is one of them, where like in the Legacy GP, I conceded at X and 1 to somebody and then dropped so that I could go enjoy Vegas. And then in the Modern GP, I wanted to lose the entire tournament so that I could go to Vegas the next day. And, you know, that is just not how you should spend your Grand Prix, because you only get so many Grand Prix and so many opportunities to qualify for a Pro Tour. Then I look at the PPTQ seasons and how well they went for me. And especially considering, like, I have a newborn baby at home. And, you know, when I look back on 2017, I remember a few things. I remember how my preparation paid off at PPTQs and at Grand Prix Denver. I remember hitting 200 episodes with my best friends and how CCMDG has evolved and what it's done for me, and as well as what it's done for our listeners. And then I think about like the things that I could have accomplished, right? Like I could have taken Grand Prix more seriously, especially considering that I want to hit Bronze. I want to be able to not play PPTQs anymore. And you know, I think that for me, 2017 will be the year that I wasted, but also be the year that I learned the most about like what I can achieve as a father. I did basically everything I wanted as a dad in Magic, so I can't be disappointed. I hope that rambling made sense, but like, it was a good year. Like, I had a great GP finish. I qualified for all the RPTQs I wanted to. I fell in love with my son. I re-fell in love with my wife. I hit 200 episodes of a podcast that I started so many years ago.
You met me.
And that's not true. That's definitely not true. That happened way before that.
Just barely, but yeah.
But I'm happy with 2017, even though I could have done better. I'm happy. Mason, what about you?
I'm pretty happy with it too. So, like I said a second ago, I set a lot of goals for myself, a lot of things I wanted to work on, and I'm happy with where it is. I tweeted out a little bit ago that like it's crazy, like thinking back to how I used to think about Magic and prepare and all that stuff, and how I used to play compared to now, and it's still just gonna grow more and more and more. So that's really exciting, and I'm happy with like the goals I had set for myself. Like I really do feel like there are a few matches where I didn't play as well. And I did those boneheaded things and those stick out. But for a lot of them, you know, if you had asked me, I would have felt confident in saying like I had this game plan, I had all these actions, everything. I was an active participant in my games, which was really big for me. And a lot of the goals I set at like the GP and the PPTQ level, I succeeded in. There was only one where I didn't. So 2017 is the first year of many years of Magic for me, and it's, you know, just gonna get better, I hope. So that's kind of where I'm at Magic.
Well, I think that, I mean, I was happy I accomplished my goal, but maybe learned, you know, I think always sometimes like part of accomplishing goals is then setting new ones and sort of recalibrating and just figuring out what your expectations are and were and what you want them to be going forward. So it was a good year in that I made a lot of friends and I had a really good time playing a lot of events in a lot of cool places. I enjoyed playing Magic this year, but I think I can enjoy it even more going forward.
Yeah, I think that even chat's talking about how humble Michael is, but It's just part of who he is, guys. Like,
I don't know. I mean, like,
I want to really quick just kind of
whatever level you get to, there are always people better than you, right? I mean, you're the best player in your store or whatever. You go to a bigger event, there are people better than you. You win that event, you qualify for something else, there are people better than you. You go to a pro tour and people are a lot better than you. It's just, it's constantly humbling.
Yeah. Also, I would say Michael is a very humble person when I talk to him, so I don't think it's supposed to come off that way. I don't think he intends for it to come off that way ever. And also, it just shows how big his goals are for Magic and how that standard he holds himself to. So.
I remember. So, this is I've never gotten close to where Michael is in Magic. Despite what anybody will tell you who's qualified for their first Pro Tour, they weren't close to silver. But I think that when I look back on like Pro Tour Origins and like my goal for that Pro Tour was to qualify for the next Pro Tour. I didn't even care like about winning or anything. Like I just want to qualify for the next Pro Tour to go to a Pro Tour with a friend, because I that was like one of my goals. Like I want to go to a Pro Tour with a friend. I remember being 4-1 and feeling on top of the world. I was like, I threw out my draft. I lost to like this terrible matchup. I'm 4-1 now. I'm locked for day 2. I just need to like have a very good finish. To like if I finish day 1 very well, I will go to the Pro Tour with Quentin. My day fell apart, and it was I let and I built this narrative around my Pro Tour that was pretty bad. And Michael actually missed day 2 of one of his Pro Tours, and I think his next Pro Tour might have been his best Pro Tour finish, where an individual finish is not your goal. Right? Like, I built this narrative around finishing well at this Pro Tour because it was my last chance to go to a Pro Tour with Quentin. When I was 4-1, I put so much pressure on myself that it was a lot. Like, the next match meant so much, the next moment meant so much, and it's really easy to fall short of those kind of goals. And if there's anything that I could have done different in 2017, it's that I stated I didn't care about Pro Tours. I didn't care about GP finishes. I didn't care. I just want to play good Magic. But my goal was good Magic at the wrong place. And I feel like I failed myself because doing poorly at GP Vegas just meant that I had to do well at some local events. And I don't care about the local events, so why was that my goal? And I think that in the future, what I would like to do is set goals for myself that elevate who I am as a Magic player, who I am as a content creator, who I am as a person, and just build me better.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I also just think results oriented. I think a lot of people think the way you did about your X1 and like, this is my last chance to play with someone and this tournament really matters, blah, blah, blah. And the grand scheme of things is the tournament probably doesn't matter as much as you're building it up to be a lot of the time. And you should just play the best Magic you can. And if you continue to do that and you play well and you're supposed to do well, then you will. That's just kind of what there is to it. There's nothing else.
Especially at that kind of level too. Like, sometimes you'll play really well and you'll just lose. Like, your opponent will play really well too, or they'll see something you didn't, or they'll have some piece of sweet sideboard tech that you'll be like, oh man, I wish I'd thought of that. Like, at that kind of level, you know, if you get there, cool, but like, all you can do is play as well as you can, right?
Mason, what is your goal for 2018?
So maintain the goals I had before, and then I'd like to hit bronze. That's like, even though I just said like you don't want to hit like make these goals that you can achieve and stuff, I would like to try and make a push for bronze and go for that since I'm still really early in my Magic career and everything. So that's something I want to do, and I want to continue, like I said before, just practicing, playing tightly in game, and just being an active participant in my matches, and just playing good Magic. That's all I want to do, really. So,
what is your goal for 2018?
Well, I think you kind of have like things I hope to achieve.
That's next.
Okay, so goal related would be to feel prepared for every Grand Prix and Pro Tour I play in. That is my goal.
My goal is super similar. So one thing that I did really poorly in 2017 is like caring, or not even caring, but like being a part of each Grand Prix I played in, or doing everything I could in each Grand Prix. So like my goal for 2018 is like every chance I have to qualify for a Pro Tour, I'm going to do everything I can to do that. And that means that from beginning to finish of every event, I'll play my best. I don't care how good my seal deck is. I don't care where I'm at in the event. I don't care what my record is. As long as I'm alive for whatever the next step of that tournament is, whether it's day 2, whether it's a Pro Tour finish, whether it's cash, I don't care what it is. Because each chance is the chance you're getting. And for me, I want to make the most of each chance. And that is my goal for 2018, is that whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm playing in, I'm making the most of the chances I'm given, whether that's a win-a-box, whether that's a PPTQ, whether that's an RPTQ. I'm just doing what I can do, playing the best Magic that I can play. Whether I'm 1-3 at a Grand Prix, trying to just grind out the end, which won't happen because I'll have buys. Okay, so whether I'm 2-3.
Whoa.
Well, and because
Jeez.
they're changing what the numbers you need are, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't even know anything about that.
Yeah, you have to X2 again.
So if I'm 1-3, we're just done.
Yeah, you can go enjoy
I mean,
Vegas.
That's honestly,
Hey,
it's probably a good thing. Having to keep playing
my win
constructed
percentage in
Grand Prix,
Vegas.
yeah. Oh, man.
My win percentage in Las Vegas. No, this is a real stat. I have never day 2'd a Grand Prix Las Vegas. And since 2010, I've day 2'd every other Grand Prix I played in but Las Vegas. No, like,
Yeah.
I do a very poor job of caring about the thing in front of me. And my goal is to just do it. Like, sweet, I get to enjoy Portland. I get to enjoy Vegas. Like, wherever I am, the benefit of going to a Grand Prix is that if I don't do well, I get to enjoy it. But that is not the benefit. My benefit is not enjoying the city. My benefit is that if I don't do well, I get to enjoy the city. So.
Yeah.
It's the consolation.
So sometimes I just feel like, it's easy to come in and feel like part of your event is like, I remember Casey saying something, I can't remember if this was on Twitter or somewhere else, but he said, like, every time I play a Team or Energy Mirror, I feel like it's a math test I didn't study for. And I've certainly had that feeling playing Magic before, where you're just like, you're playing a match, you're just like, my opponent just gets this a lot better than I do. And sometimes it's because your opponent, like, great, you play against Owen or whatever, and, like, it's not necessarily an indictment of your preparation or of your ability, right? Like, it's okay for someone to be better prepared than you, but feeling under-prepared for an event is really frustrating, because at that point it's just like, why am I even here? And kind of the same thing, right? With, like, if you just want to go to Portland, we don't need a Grand Prix. You can just go to Portland.
Right.
Right.
That's my thing. Is I go to Vegas 6 times a year. Why am I at Vegas for a Vegas trip when I already go?
Right.
It's
well,
so
and even if
upsetting.
you don't, right? You could
It's so
like
upsetting.
you could take any of these trips, and they'd be cheaper, right? Because you
Yes.
wouldn't have to pay for a main event.
Yeah, I agree. Let's wrap this up with our 2018 hopes. So I think a hope is different than a goal. I hope that in 2018, my Patreon can hit $1,000 per month. I can really pay for a lot of things that I want to do in Magic between myself and Michael and even Mason, and that I can change the way that, like, so much has been said through the last month about content creators asking for money, and I don't feel like we've ever asked for money on this podcast, and I don't think we ever will. But the money does change things, right? Like, the money that I give to Michael to pay for his Grand Prix entries makes it easier for him to go to Grand Prix. The money that we spend on our patrons makes our patrons' lives better, and it's just true. That is one of my hopes, is that we can kind of double what we did this year. We had a really good year on Patreon. The year before that, we only had like $100, and we hit 500 this year. So we X5'd. I don't even want to do close to that.
But you'll take it.
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah, if we end up with 2,500, yeah, I'll be happy with that. But I do hope that. And my other hope is that my content can improve, and that it can improve through my play. So one of the things that I really believe in Magic is that good content comes from good preparation for your events. Like, people want to watch people succeed. And between myself and Michael, I hope that we can do that. I hope that we can prepare the right way, execute the right way, and our content improves because of it. Michael, what about you? What do you hope for 2018?
Well, I hope that my preparation turns into finishes that I can be excited about and proud of. I hope that I continue to qualify for Pro Tours. I hope that I continue to feel passionate about preparing for them and about trying to win at Magic, because it's really fun. And I hope that ultimately that translates into more pro points than I had last year, which seems likely at this point. But you can never take them for granted. Like, the people you play against at high level events are good, and
Magic is hard.
You have to beat them generally by out preparing them. That's basically it.
Mason?
Let's see. I hope that I qualify for my first Pro Tour. That'd be pretty cool. And then I hope that I look back and it's just like, I keep saying in this episode, but it really is something that I'm focusing on. It's like one of the main things for me is that I hope when I look back on a year and I rewatch this podcast or re-listen to this bit, that it's like, yep, I'm always being an active participant in my game. I'm always making decisions with a reason. I'm playing to a game plan. I'm playing to win. And that I hope that I can just do that and it becomes natural, instinctive. I don't have to focus so hard on it. Sometimes it does feel like I really have to focus on that. So I really hope that I can overcome that and that I can just continue to do that. And I really also hope that my friends in my local area, they keep going on the right path that they're going on. I hope they do well.
Yeah, I hope that every member of CC Worldwide qualifies for a Pro Tour this year.
For the same one. And then another one. And another one.
That would be broken.
Yeah.
So if I were to wrap this up, 2017 was a great year for CCMTG. Like I said, we X5'd on our Patreon. Michael got silver. We all did really well. Me doing the video podcast was started, and I don't know, it was a good year, and it would be poor of me to not recognize the fact that all that stuff happened, and I'm grateful for Michael. I'm grateful for Mason. I love these guys, and I texted them today that I love them. It means the world to me that I get to keep doing this every week, and this is currently a 2-hour podcast. It's probably the longest of the year, and
140. Don't worry about it. We're good.
Thanks.
I'm glad to help.
It'll be. All right. So don't forget that you can go to patreon.com/ccmtg, become a patron of the show. You can find me at Spencer.H. You can find Michael at MagicMikeMPG. You can find Mason at Mason Clark. You can join the conversation by going to Twitter at hashtag would that be good. You can join the conversation on the Constructive Criticism family if you're a patron of $5 or more. You can join the Constructive Critics group if you want to join the Discord. The link is in the bios page on constructivecriticism.com. You can join the clan by messaging me at Spencer13H. Hashtag would be good is our Twitter outage program. We mentioned it a little bit earlier. If you tweet it, we'll read it. I think there's been 4 or 5 while we've done the show. Did we skip last week?
No, we didn't skip last week, but we missed a day, so we need to go back 8 days. So I think the first one would be Adrian.
Adrian on Taylor?
Yeah, so I think the first one is Adrian tweets, Taylor's just the GOAT. New album continues to impress even after the 20th lesson. Hashtag Swifties. Hashtag would that be good? That is correct. It is great.
I'm a Swiftie, but it's not even close to her best album.
Right, but it's no one's saying that. It's good.
Oh, okay.
And the first time I listened to it, I thought it was meh, and then by the 4th or 5th, I really liked it.
Why? I just don't see any of these tweets. What's happening to me?
Adrian's account has a little lock thing on it, so maybe.
Do you not?
Apparently I don't.
Well, maybe even bad-mouthing Taylor and as such, you can't see these. Have
yeah.
you been talking
Yeah, I got
shade?
blocked. That's probably true.
Yeah.
Chantel says went to
It's
the
probably
Blaze
true.
Pizza and got extra
you know.
pineapples. Best day ever. I mean, you do you. I don't care at this point.
Whoa, you're talking about Chantel, host of Proven Combatants?
Yeah, she can do whatever she wants. I don't care.
Spencer.
But you want on your pizza. It's whatever.
Aw,
It's been broken.
Spencer, you sound so sad.
You don't understand how many pineapple texts, tweets. Here's the thing: pineapple is not good on pizza. Like,
Hey,
you
Spencer,
already have a no. Hold. Don't you gonna let me finish?
I'm
Or
gonna
do you
let
wanna interrupt?
I'm gonna let you finish. I'm gonna let you finish.
Okay. You already have a sweet fruit on your pizza. It's called tomato sauce. So every person who's like, I want sweet and salty or sweet and savory, it already exists. It's called the sauce.
Spencer, maybe you should just accept that you don't like pineapple on pizza, and some of us do, and that's okay. And the point of contention, is that you say.
I just said I don't care.
The point of contention is you said
but
it's
it doesn't matter
bad, just
'cause
unilaterally.
Because people will continue to give me this. It's fine. It's fine.
I love you, Spencer, but it's okay.
Merry Christmas to my Easy Game Media family, at Spencer with an H, at Magic Mike MPG, at DJ Castro, at Chantel, at Autumn, at Teresa, and at Sarah. Here's to many more years of podcasting. Hashtag live good. What we learned today is that Mason doesn't love the Common Knowledge podcast.
Right, I don't know the new hosts on Twitter.
Womp, womp.
But you can check that show out each and every week and learn their Twitter handles at the Construction Criticism website. I'd like to also point out I tweeted that in cat's order. So if you're listening, girls, I had it one way and I realized that's not in cat's order. And so I redid it. If you're a fan of Proven Combatants, you'll know what I'm talking about. We took care of it. Boom. Ship it.
Holy crap. Is in Dominaria come April at Wizards MTG. Please let it be a Carmeliterated reprint. There's no reason
Why
for
do
that
you
other
wanna
than the fact that
reprint
you want
that
to
card?
decrease the card price.
Yeah, I thought, I mean, I don't know the story that well, but wasn't Karn, like, imprisoned and then he got liberated? So I guess if he was imprisoned again somehow, they could do it. But also,
Yeah,
why do we want that
Karn.
card?
They can
Karn
just
still
do it.
liberated.
I'd like to point
Karn.
out,
Like,
if they do put that card in standard, they plan for that and
That would
Marvel
be
to be in
so
standard at the same
perfect.
time.
Hold on, time out. Michael, they can't print Karn Reliberated with the same abilities, because then you play like
Karn.
5 or
You
6
just call
cards.
it Karn still liberated. It's just the
Yeah.
same card called Karn still liberated.
Tron just
Then
spikes for
Tron
the
might
best.
actually be good. Yeah, exactly. Oh my god.
you
Mason,
think-
why did you do this to us? Spencer, do you know how much I love pugs? Spencer now yelling, I love pugs. Hashtag with the good. Yeah, my first dog was a pug.
To bring up the sad part, it was funny.
My brother ran over my pug with his car, and she started pooping in the house, and my mom couldn't handle that. After she was ran over, she couldn't control herself, and my mom put her down, and I held her while they killed her. I also buried her, and
Aggro.
Jeez,
I love-
I'm laughing because I don't like cry.
I
This
was
is really
probably
emotional.
12.
God, I had a cat die when I was like 8,
It-
and it
So
was
here's
a
the
lot.
thing. Here's the thing is, like, my grandmother died around the same time. I'm pretty sure I cried more about the pug, but the pug I
Oh, for sure.
got when I was like 2.
Maybe I'm weird, but like, well, it always depends on circumstances. But most of the time, when it's been my grandparents' time, it's been time.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
My grandma was sick for years.
Yeah, if you're
Like my mom
you know.
put my dog down because it pooped in the house, right? So like it was
yeah,
hey, we're gonna kill our dog, and I was like, well, I want to be there, and then my 12-year-old was not ready to watch something die.
yeah, you were like, maybe I don't want to be there.
Well,
So
I
many
didn't know
regrets.
that until after the dog died.
Yeah. So many regrets.
You know what? I regret making this tweet because at the time it was pre-show and we were all quiet and randomly Spencer goes, "Do you know how much I love pugs?" And then he just yells, "I love pugs!" And I was like, "That's really funny. I'm gonna tweet that." And then now
But it ended up being a lot
And
less
now
funny.
it's now. And then it was now.
Um,
Also, I love pugs. If you want to like make me happy, just tweet me a cute picture of a pug. I love
what do
pugs.
you think about pineapples on pugs?
If you want to make me hate pugs, go for it. Let's ruin Spencer's life.
All right. Andrew tweets, badass scarf from the wife for Christmas. It's only the third time I've shared this pic. LOL, just too proud of her. It's pretty dang awesome. And
I'm
her
super
mana
confused.
symbols are on point.
I'm super confused. I'm pretty sure somebody else tweeted this same picture, but they were socks. But there was
Well-
all 6 mana symbols.
It might be also Andrew. Maybe his wife made him a scarf and socks.
That would be so powerful.
I know she
I
made
know.
a scarf. I don't know she made socks.
She probably didn't make socks and a scarf.
No, I think it was
there's-
Ruben Bresler got socks with all 6 mana symbols.
Well, Andrew, your wife is also making Christmas gifts for Ruben Bresler.
Oh my!
Which
This
seems
adds a whole
fine.
new
The
layer to
sock-
everything.
The sock is sweet, or the scarf is sweet.
Yeah, those
Uh,
are really cool.
This 2017 was a great year. I started off by beating Reduke on the way to my first GP finish to date. On my best GP finish to date. Well, my first RPDQ, top 8 the subsequent RPDQ, landed a writing gig, producing MTG content. A great stepping stone, and 2018 will be even better. Hashtag will be good. Cool. Congratulations, Andrew.
Reed
like-
Duke Slayer, Andrew Elliott.
What?
This is a funny little story. So Andrew
That's way
was,
better than the Nikachu Slayer.
That's yeah. Well, first off, it's more impressive.
No offense.
Yeah.
And
well,
second of all,
who's
Nick
Nikachu
Slade
even?
You.
Yeah, like, oh, listen, the time's coming.
Thank
And we-
you, everybody, for listening.
I'm not going to stop
Jason,
streaming.
Andrew
I'm just
is
going to keep
better
doing
at
it.
Magic, and we'll see you guys all next week.
I'm just not going to end the stream. All right, I'll end it.